Hello everyone, welcome to a new video. As I had said in my last video that there is a topic which is too vast to cover in a 15-minute video with many other subtopics. So that will be covered in the next video. And here I am with that very topic, which is time. Have you ever wondered that 900 years of Indian history are just missing? We don't know what happened in that period, and half of our kings are considered mythology. Half of our battles are considered mythology. There is this whole Aryan invasion theory, and everything is just messed up. And it is also because we modern people think that we are the only ones who are extremely intelligent, and people in the past cannot mean they should not have that much intelligence which we have. I don't know how that came in our minds. And then that is when our most kind colonizers come in and mess up the whole thing. So let's dive into the topic of the Indian chronology. Just a disclaimer, okay? The Aryans did not invade in 1500 BCE, and if anything is a myth, then it's the Aryan invasion theory and not the Indian history. So I just hope that you people know that, and you don't consider that the invasion actually happened, and after that you're watching the video. If by any chance you still don't know that it's a myth, then I suggest you some videos which I have the links of those videos I will post in the description box below. So kindly check out those videos if you still believe in the invasion theory. But it didn't happen, so just a disclaimer. There is a debate among many Indic researchers regarding the chronology of Indian history. I have read Nilesh Oak's work. I have also read Vedveer Arya's work. For this video, I will be referring to Vedveer Arya's work. Not that I am denying or opposing someone's theory, I am just referring to his research for the sake of the video. Just before starting the video, I just want to make you all guys familiar with the terminology which I am going to use in this video. So here it is. Solstice. The time or date twice each year at which the sun reaches its maximum or minimum declination, marked by the longest and shortest days. Equinox. The time or date twice each year at which the sun crosses the celestial equator when day and night are approximately equal length. Epoch. It's a particular period of time in history or a person's life. It is the beginning of a period in the history of someone or something. A division of time that is subdivision of a period, and itself is subdivided into ages corresponding to a series of chronostratigraphy. AD or CE. 2000 years ago, an epoch started with the birth of Jesus Christ. Christian scholars name the epoch as Anno Domini or the Year of God. But this has zero significance to the non-Christians, so Common Era was used instead of AD. It's the same thing, just two different names. BC or BCE. The time before the birth of Jesus is called before Christ. As Jesus has no significance for non-Christians, the time before CE is called before Common Era. Nakshatras. A nakshatra is one of the 27 sectors along the ecliptic line in the sky. Their names are related to a prominent star or asterisms in or near the respective sectors. In essence, a nakshatra is a constellation which lies on the path of the sun, moon, and planets. None of these bodies go out of this line, but the lines shift from north to south during summer and winter solstice. So now, let's begin with the topic. The question arises that if Anno Domini or AD has no significance to people like us, then why are we considering it as an epoch? Well, this is where our most kind colonizers come in. But this doesn't feel right? I mean, we are a free country. Did you know that around the same time there is also an Indian epoch from which the Anno Domini epoch has been taken? Because the Armenians used to use Indian calendar to mark their festivals and dates. Ever heard the word Vikram Samvat? It was a epoch started by King Vikramaditya in 57 BCE. He started an epoch in 57 BCE on the day of his coronation. But the Western philosophers don't accept this king as reality. So they basically mean that we Indians made up a king, made up his story, and then made up his coronation and started an epoch. The king had Navaratnas. In those Navaratnas, there were two prominent people called Kalidas and Varahmihir. Kalidas refers to Varahmihir and Vikramaditya as Sakha, which is same age old friend. Now Kalidas and Varahmihir write two books because Varahmihir was a polymath and Kalidas was a writer. So they write two books. One refers to 427 Shaka, which is an epoch, like the way we use a Gregorian calendar, right? They used to use the Shaka calendar. One refers to 427, one refers to 445, around the same time. Varahmihir says that he is writing the book 3068 years since Kali Yuga has started. If you calculate that, then it comes around 33 BCE. So as King Vikramaditya and Kalidas and Varahmihir were contemporaries, so they will be present during the coronation of Vikramaditya, which is 57 BCE. But there is a twist. The Shaka epoch starts in 78 AD or 78 CE. So go 445, 427 years after that and then just place Varahmihir and Kalidas. But they were during 57 BCE, then how is that possible? So because historians didn't find the answer, they just pushed these two people ahead. With that, they started pushing many prominent historical figures in our history. They started pushing them ahead, like Adi Shankaracharya, Aryabhatta. They also pushed the Mahabharata date ahead, brought it to something 1200. Something like the Aryans arrive in 1500 BC. 300 years later, they form a big Mahajanpada. They fight a war. And then suddenly 600 years ago, they again found the Mahajanpada. It's a complete mess which starts from here. Then how to fix it? What is the error? Where to find it? Because clearly 78 CE is the Shaka epoch and 427 years after. They're mentioning 427 years after the Shaka epoch. So what is your problem, Vyomnath? So let's talk about those books and those dates and the year which Kalidas and Varahmihir had put. They were talking about 427 and 445 years after the Shaka epoch. Now the problem is that there are two Shaka epochs. The 78 CE is the Shakantara Shaka epoch and the previous one is the Shaka era, the Shaka epoch. Okay, so now if you would put it perfectly, then it matches because the earlier Shaka epoch is 583 BCE. So from there, if you start reconciling, you get 57 BCE, 33 BCE, then all the years which they are talking about. You find all that. But if you change that, then you will have to change many things. And do we have a problem with that? No, we don't. So let's dive into that. We realize that there is an error of 1300 years. So we consider that and then we start reconciling the Indian traditional chronology. Just make a note, guys, I make videos of 10 to 15 minutes max and this topic is really vast, so I'm not going to explain you how it is done. If you want to know about it, I'll put the links of the videos and the PDFs and the websites down in the description so that you can read it. I'll directly jump to the timeline. I won't take up the challenge of correcting the errors. Instead, I'm going to we have summoned the timeline here, and now I'm going to mark the important dates in Indian history and explain you the chronology. Just the way Christian historians set the date of Anno Domini 2000 years ago, we should find a very significant event in Indian traditional chronology and mark it on our timeline. And the recent most important event in Indian traditional chronology is the commencement of the Kali Yuga or the Kurukshetra war, which is also known as Parikshita Janma. So that was 3162 BCE, around 5000 years ago. So let's put that in the chronology. Yeah. The second most important event is Buddha Nirvana, which took place 1200 years after the Mahabharata war. So when you calculate it, it comes to be around 1864 BCE. As per the Puranas, Mahapadmananda was coronated 1050 to around 1500 years after the Mahabharata war. So then Dhanananda was Mahapadmananda's son. Dhanananda fought with Chandragupta Maurya and he won. So around 1596 BCE to 1600 BCE, Chandragupta Maurya was coronated. So among the Buddhists, there are Theravada Buddhists which say that Ashoka was coronated 218 years after the death of Buddha or Buddha Nirvana. If you check the timeline, there's a large gap between Chandragupta, Bindusara, Ashoka, and look where Buddha is. So it seems to be a problem, right? It is not, because the Ashoka which the Theravada Buddhists are referring to is Kala Ashoka and not Maurya Ashoka. Kala Ashoka was the descendant of Ajatashatru, and Buddha died in the 8th regnal year of Ajatashatru. Then his sons Kala Ashoka, his sons Mahapadmananda, Dhanananda, Chandragupta, Ashoka. The Greeks, really useful people when it comes to Indian history, I'm telling you. So the Greeks have mentioned that when Alexander came to Afghanistan, or right now I'm going to call it Gandhar and not Afghanistan. So when he came over there, he visited a Greek god temple. Now Alexander was the first Greek to come to India. How the hell a Greek god temple was situated in Gandhar? It is because a previous Greek invader called Hercules had come till Gandhar and he returned back. He is mentioned in Greek history, and also in Indian history there is a mention of the Mlechas or the Yavanas trying to invade India, but a name is not given, so it is Hercules. So it was him who invaded till Gandhar. He went back. Before going back, he named his governors over there Alika Sundara, Magha. Many of the inscriptions which are said to be Maurya Ashokas are actually Kala Ashokas. So that's why Ashoka talks about Alika Sundara and Magha. Those are not named by Alexander, but they are named by Hercules. Another important person in Indian history, Jain Mahavir, also attained Nirvana. After reconciling and correcting that 660-670 years gap, we can mark the year 1190 BCE as Jain Mahavir Nirvana. With this, we come to Adi Shankaracharya, who lived 1200 to 1300 years after Buddha Nirvana. After marking that, we come to 583 BC or BCE, which is the ancient Shaka epoch. 427 and 445 years after that, Kalidasa and Varahmihir write their respective texts, and in 57 BCE, King Vikramaditya is coronated. In 78 AD or 78 CE, second Shaka epoch, which is the Shakantara epoch, it commenced. So now that we have established the chronology from Mahabharata to King Vikramaditya, I think it's time to go beyond, because a very significant part of Indian history takes place before that. So let's shift the timeline here so that we can go before Mahabharata. There was a person called Mayasura who wrote the first Surya Siddhanta. Now he refers to a very rare conjunction, and he says that he is writing it at the end of Satya Yuga and the beginning of Treta Yuga. So when we find that particular conjunction and when we calculate it, it turns out to be 6778 BCE. Now before that Surya Siddhanta, we used to say that one Yuga is of 5 years and one Chatur Yuga is of 20 years. When Mayasura wrote that Surya Siddhanta, we started following the cycle of Jupiter of 12 years. So the Yuga length extended to 1200 years. So as we know that the events of the Ramayana took place at the end of Treta Yuga. So Treta Yuga is 1200 years after 6778 BCE. So that comes to be 5578 CE. So Ramayana was written in Laukik Sanskrit. Maharshi Valmiki is the father of Laukik Sanskrit. So every text written in Vedic or post-Vedic Sanskrit will be before Ramayana. So when we talk about Atharva Veda, who talks about Kritika being the winter solstice. But Maya Sura Surya Siddhanta says that Ashwini is the winter solstice. So now let's use these two events to set up the further chronology. So note that the sun's precession is 13.2 degrees every 1000 years. So we have to exactly find when Ashwini Nakshatra is the winter solstice. The year comes to be 7300 BCE. Considering the sun's precession, we have to go back every 1000 years. So 7300 BCE, 8300 BCE, 9300 BCE. Around 9300 BCE, Kritika is winter solstice. Alright, so that is the time when Atharva Veda was compiled or written. Don't be surprised, the Sindhu Saraswati sites of Bhirana and Dwarka go back to 9500 BCE. Now they are well planned cities, okay? So human civilization surely goes a lot many years prior to that to have that knowledge to build such cities. Let's control save this timeline and let me explain you about the Tamil traditional chronology, and I'll use that to reconcile the Indian traditional chronology. The Tamil folks have a very clear demarcation of events which took place in their chronology. So they say that from Agastya Muni to the sinking of the ancient Madurai city, which was the capital of the Pandyas, 4400 years elapsed. 3700 years after that, the second capital, the new capital of the Pandyas, which is Kavatapura, even that sank. Now, this event took place around the events of Mahabharata. Then, after 1850 years of Mahabharata, the third Sangam era commenced. So, when we add all of that, we get 10,000 years. And when we correct it with the missing 1300 years of Indian history, we get 11,300 years. That is the time of Agastya Muni. Now, Agastya Muni was the contemporary of Daksha. Daksha was the contemporary of Mahadev himself. So, it's really fascinating. Now, Agastya Muni was also the person who wrote some of the suktas of the Rigveda. So, we can say that Rigveda was compiled, okay? Compilation was done around 11,300 BCE. I'm saying compilation and stressing on that because the composition of the Rigveda was done a long time before that, as it tells about the pastoral life of the humans. According to recorded Indian history, a calendar was invoked which said that Ashwini Nakshatra is the autumnal equinox. Another recorded historical event says that the sage Vishwamitra disputed with sage Vasishtha and corrected the calendar with Shravana Nakshatra. So after calculating all this, we find that it goes back to 13,500 BCE. Now look at this flowchart. When you go down the flowchart, you see Raja Bharat, our ancient nation, which starts from Sindhu River to Vanga Pradesh, and from Gandhar to Lanka was named after this very king. Around 16,000 BCE, the southwest monsoon winds of India stabilized and it started the agrarian society of India, Bharat. A lot of recorded historical events which represent the pastoral life of human civilization or Indian civilization are mentioned in the Rigveda. But I won't dive into that right now. Now, I'm going to stop. This was too much, wasn't it? This surely was a very long episode, and many of you must have found it to be very heavy and intense. It was also difficult for me to compile all the information and write it in a script and present it in front of you. I don't think I'm going to be able to say all the intro. So don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell icon. And signing out, Vyom Not.